Lesson 5-6, point slope form. You are going to need a piece of graph paper for a few examples. If you had room still on your graph paper with 5-5 examples of graph paper, you can add them right on to that. And you'll also want page 71 from your Know It notes to add some things onto there. In lesson 5-5, we saw that if you know the slope of a line and the y-intercept, you can graph the line. You can also graph the line if you know its slope and any point on the line. And in some of the classes this week, we did kind of talk about that as a way of finding the y-intercept. You could actually graph the point and the slope, and you could just figure out where the y-intercept was. This leads us into a new form of the line, I swear the last form, which is called point slope form. And in a moment, we will fill that in, but first we're just going to practice graphing quickly, probably just one or two examples here of how to graph if you know any point and the slope. So get that graph paper ready. Okay. I don't think you necessarily need to write the steps down unless it feels like it's going to be confusing to you. And if so, you can come back and jot them down on your graph paper where they're next to your graph. So you're going to plot the given point. You're going to count out the slope from that point, just like you did when you graphed the y-intercept, and mark that new point. And then you draw a line through your 2 points. So the only thing that's different is that the point isn't on the y-intercept. So let's do one together. Make a nice small coordinate plane. See, it doesn't need to be very big. And we're going to plot the line that goes through the point 3, 1 and has a slope of 2. So we go to the point 3, 1, make a nice point there. And then we count out that slope. Remember, the slope is 2 over 1. So that's rise 2, 1, 2, run 1 to the right. Make your new point, use a straight edge, and draw the line. You might be able to tell I didn't really use a straight edge, but you should use a straight edge. That's all there is to it. So really, if you know how to do graphing with the y-intercept, then you know how to do this too. Plot your point, count your slope, done. We'll do one more just to make sure everybody's on track, and then that's it for graphing for today. Yay! Except no, because it's going to mean lots of harder algebra things instead. Graph the line with the given slope that contains the given point. So our point this time is at -2, 4. Go ahead and pause the video and give it a try yourself, and then come back. Now that you're back, -2, -4 is here on our graph. And our slope is 3/4, so we're going to run 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna rise 3. Excuse me, we did rise 3, and then we're going to run 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, it just barely fits on this graph. And here's our line. Okay. That's all for that. Now we really get to point slope form. Oh wait, first you got to read the joke. Ha ha ha. It's nice running into you. Okay, now don't get scared. Don't get scared. You don't have to write this down. But I want you to understand where this new point slope form is coming from. And it really comes out of the slope formula. You can see the slope formula right here. Okay? y2 minus y1 equals x2 over x2 minus x1 equals m. Well, if I decide that I want to get rid of that fraction, I could multiply both sides by x2 minus x1. That's what it shows here in red. And anytime I have something over itself, it cancels. So these two actually cancel. Even though they're subtractions, they're exactly the same thing, so they make a fancy form of 1. And that leaves me then with this new equation that says m times x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1. And when we turn this around, this is what is affectionately known as the point slope formula of a line. We don't often use point slope form actually all by itself. We usually use it as a way of getting back to slope intercept form. And you'll see where that's coming from in just a moment. For right now, though, up there kind of near the top of page 71, copy down what I just put in that fuchsia box. y2 minus y1 equals m times x2 minus x1. And I'm going to put it again on the next slide so you can get it again. So the line with slope m that contains the point x1, y1 can be described by the equation y. Now this is a little bit different. Actually, this is really the one I want you to write down. Y minus y1, meaning we're going to leave this y that I'm going over in pink. We leave that in the equation. And that's just like in y equals mx plus b. We have to have an x in the equation. We have to have a y in the equation. This is the y that we keep in the equation. Y minus y1 equals m, that'll get filled in, times the quantity x minus x1. And x, the black one, is the one that'll stay in the equation. We'll end up filling in y1, m, and x1. And that'll allow us then to go ahead and turn that into slope-intercept form. We could turn it into standard form too, but slope-intercept form is really the most convenient form, so that's what we usually want to change things into. So let's see how this works in practice. Hopefully I haven't lost you yet. I know this stuff is hard. Don't panic yet. We're going to do a lot of practice between the video and in class. We're going to go the 2 days over this, so don't panic. First thing, just being able to plug things into the point slope form. So, and we're going to commit these to memory. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So if the slope is 1/6, I plug it in for m. And the point is 5, 1. 5 goes in for x1. 1 goes in for y1. And if they're asking you to give it in point slope form, then this is it. You're done. It looks unfinished. I know. Don't panic. If it asks for it in point slope form, it should look unfinished. Let's try B. Okay, so we have y minus y1 is 3. Equals m, which is -4, times x minus 0. And you can leave it like that. You don't even have to multiply it out. Just leave it all like that. I know it seems unfinished. It's okay. I promise. I won't mark you down. Last one, you give it a try following the pattern. Remember, even if you don't fully understand everything in math, in algebra, go with the pattern. Do your best to follow the pattern, and eventually, believe it or not, it usually starts to make sense. Y minus -4, you can go ahead and change that to plus, equals m is 1 times x minus -1, and you can change that to plus. You can leave it like that, or you could even take the 1 out from in front, but this would be perfectly acceptable. You could even leave the double negatives, but usually people change those to positives. Okay. And I know I didn't tell you where to write those down. Hopefully you did write them down. You should write them down somewhere down there at the bottom of page 71. Pause it and write them down if you didn't already. Don't be lazy. No lazy lazies. Okay. Now we get to the part that's really the critical part, and that is we want to take the equation and put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to start out with point slope form, but then we're going to morph it into slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Now we know another way to do this also, and so if you're thinking, I already know how to do that, you do, yes, and I'm giving you 2 ways to do it. Algebra is all about flexibility. It's good to have more than one way to do things. So if you're thinking, couldn't I just graph it and count to the y-intercept and write it? Yes, you could. If you're thinking, hey, couldn't I plug in the point for x and y and plug in m and then calculate b and then put it back in? Yes, you could. And we'll do some problems in class where we do it all 3 ways. But right now, my goal is to teach you how to do it from point slope form. So even if you think this is redundant, meaning you've already done other things that are the same, you're going to go with it. You're going to write this down at the bottom of page 71. So they've given us the point, -1, 4. They've given us the slope. So we're going to plug that into our point slope form. Okay. Y minus 4 equals 3, that's m, times the quantity x minus -1. Fix it so that it's got your plus sign instead of the double negatives. And then we're going to distribute. Y minus 4 equals 3x plus 3. And now to turn into slope-intercept form, all I need to do is get rid of that -4, and I'll be done. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and my answer would be y equals 3x plus 7. So a lot of people actually like this method because it's pretty neat and tidy. It doesn't feel like you have to go through so many iterations of steps, and you don't have to graph it. A lot of people don't really like graphing that much, so a nice, neat algebraic way is often pretty sweet. There's your answer. We're going to do another one, so if I lost you, don't panic. Okay, so here's another one. We've got a line with slope 1/3. There's your m. And here's our point, -3, 1. So we're going to plug everything in. If you're feeling good, pause it and give it a try on your own. If not, if I've kind of confused you, just hang out with me here and do it together. Y minus 1, that's y1, equals m, which is 1/3, times x minus -3. Zip zap there. And now we're going to distribute. Maybe I have that actually on the next slide. Let's see here. All right, well, I at least have more space. So we had y minus 1 equals 1/3 times x plus 3 after we zip zap. So we distribute. Y minus 1 equals 1/3 x plus 1/3 times 3. That's just 1. And now I'm going to add 1 to both sides to get rid of this, keep y all by itself. And I have y equals 1/3 x plus 2. And that's the answer, the line in slope-intercept form. Okay. Now we have, I'm going to backtrack actually for 1 second. Let me come back here. One of the things on page 71 is it says writing the equation of the line if you know the slope and the y-intercept. Well, if you already know the slope and the y-intercept, like m equals 1 and b equals 3, then how would you find the equation of the line? You would plug in m and b, right? And you would get y equals 1x plus 3. So that's the middle box there on page 71. You got to pay attention because I didn't label it. Okay. Now the left-hand box says if you know 2 points on the line. We're going to get to that in a second. The right-hand box says if you know the slope and a point on the line, right, then you have those 3 options. You can graph to find the y-intercept. You can solve for b. Or the new way that you just learned today is to use point slope formula. Or form, I guess I should say. Point slope form. And then you get to your slope intercept form. Now the third thing they ask there is about, well, what if you just know 2 points on the line? I know some of you are probably feeling overwhelmed. This is the last little bit. I'm only going to go through probably one of these examples right now, and we'll do more of them in class. The only thing that's different if you know just 2 points on the line is, and you're going to write this in the box, right? Find the slope. You have to calculate the slope first. Okay. Right. After that, it's the same as the right-hand box. Right? Then you have all those options. You can graph, you can solve for b, plug it back in, or you can use the point slope form. So it's almost like you're going to write find the slope or calculate the slope, and then draw a line over to that third box on the right. Right? And then do this because it's the same. That's the third box on the right. Third box on the right. Okay. So let's try it for this one. 2, -3 and 4, 1. So we're going to use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1, that's 1 minus -3, over x2 minus x1. And after I zip zap, I get 4 over 2, which is 2. So now I know the slope. And I'm going to plug everything in. Y minus, okay, pick either point. You should be writing this one down either on extra paper or on the bottom of page 71 if you still have room. Okay, either point. Doesn't matter which. I usually choose the one that seems simpler, like the one that doesn't have any negatives in it. That's my favorite one. So I'm going to choose 4, 1. So my y value is 1. M, we calculated as 2. X minus x1 is 4. And then I'm going to distribute. I should be working down, but I don't have room. Y minus 1 equals 2x minus 8. Add 1 to both sides. And we get our final answer. Y equals 2x minus 7. Okay. There are clearly other ways to do this. You could graph both points. You could count the slope then between them. And you could figure out what the y-intercept is and plug it all in. And guess what? If you draw it out, count the slope, you should get a slope of 2. You figure out where it crosses the line on the y-intercept, it's going to cross at -7 as long as you graph really accurately. That would be a totally acceptable way to do this. It's just not always super convenient because not always are the numbers as nice as they are right here. So remember, it's not that graphing is a bad way to solve things. It's just that graphing sometimes is complicated when we don't have a whole bunch of stuff of integers. Okay. I think that I'm going to stop there. Let me just see what's next. Okay, we actually did that part already. Let me just glance here. Through 2 points. We're going to do the word problem together later. And some graphs down here. All right, that is it. Bye-bye.